You know, it all started the way so many of these stories do, right? Five college friends, they're looking for an adventure, something different. But this trip, it ended with two of them found unconscious on a beach, haunted by memories they just couldn't explain. So what really went down on Dumas Beach? Let's get into it. Okay, so in a small village over on the coast of Gujarat in India, there's this warning. It's been passed down from parent to child for generations. It's just a simple rule, really, for a place that's only about 2 hours away, a place with well, let's just say a deeply unsettling reputation.
And that warning translates to this. It's the exact same advice one of our main characters, Mayor, remembered his grandmother telling him when he was just a kid. And, ironically, it's the same warning he gave his friends right before he, kind of reluctantly, suggested their next trip to the one and only infamous Duma Beach.
All right, so let me paint you a picture. You've got five friends, they're hanging out in their college canteen, totally bored with all the usual trip ideas. And that's when Mayor, almost as a joke, throws out an idea. He mentions this one place that people are afraid to visit even during the day. Yeah, the one place he was always told to stay away from.
And you know what? The idea just kind of stuck. One of them, Kushal, was totally thrilled by the whole legend. Others, like Ria and Neil, not so much. They were pretty hesitant, but they made a deal. They'd stay at Mayur's village, which was close by, and, this was the important part, they would only visit the beach during the day. It was supposed to be a quick, totally safe adventure. They all promised they'd be out of there long before the sun even thought about setting.
So the next afternoon they get there, and honestly, any of that spooky feeling they had, it just vanished. The place was absolutely buzzing with life. You had families everywhere, kids running around playing, vendors selling snacks. It felt more like a carnival than some haunted stretch of sand. And this is really the great contradiction of Dumas Beach, isn't it? By day, it's just this busy, fun tourist spot. But its dark history, I mean, it's literally buried right there, under your feet. The local legends say that once night falls, the spirits of the dead, restless, maybe not even fully cremated, start whispering to anyone who's foolish enough to stick around.
So Ria's the first one to notice it. She's looking down and asks, "Hey, why is the sand so black?" And Mayor is the one who has the answer. See, for centuries, this exact spot was a Hindu cremation ground. That black color, it's not volcanic rock, it's ash. Ash from countless funeral pyres all mixed in with the sand. And the local belief goes even darker. They say many bodies weren't even fully cremated, just buried right there.
Okay, so while they're all just trying to process this pretty unsettling fact, this local guy who's collecting plastic bottles just walks up to them. His eyes looked so tired and his voice was just cold. He looks right at them, standing there on that black sand, and says this one cryptic thing. Many people are sleeping under this. And then he just turns and walks away, left the whole group just standing there in total stunned silence. And it's right after that weird encounter that they notice something else. All the people, right? The families, the vendors, the crowds, they're all huddled together on one side of the beach. But right in front of our friends is this huge, empty stretch of sand, leading off towards some old ruin in the distance. It was like there was this invisible line drawn in the sand and nobody, absolutely nobody, was crossing it. And of course, it's Kushal, the adventurer of the group, who says what they're all thinking. He points to that run-down old building and starts pushing the others. "Come on, let's go check it out." He makes the case, you know. "It's only 4 p.m., he says. "We have plenty of time to get there and back before 6. And this is the moment where that little bit of fear starts to crack the group apart. Ria just had this deep, bad feeling about it and straight up refused to go. Arav decided to stay back with her. Neil went a little ways with them, but then he looked back at that huge empty beach behind them, got a really bad vibe, and turned around to wait with the others. So now, it's just Muir and Kushal walking alone towards the ruins. So they make it to the ruins, snap a few photos, and then think, hey, let's go for a quick swim. And you know how it is, they get lost in the moment, just having fun. They totally lost track of time. By the time they finally get out of the water, the sky is getting dark, fast. The beach is now completely empty, and they realize they have no clue which way they came from.
They try to call their friends, but the call cuts out, and then their phones die. As total darkness just swallows the beach, everything changes. The whispers begin. At first, you can't really make them out, but then they start to sound like words. The night just turned into this non-stop psychological attack, a total onslaught of terror. We're talking ghostly figures, and a fear so deep, so primal that eventually their bodies and minds just shut down. The first thing they heard, it was soft. A sweet, almost gentle voice just floating on the wind, calling out Kushal's name. It seemed to be coming from everywhere at once, from the ocean, from the shore, from right behind them. But every time they looked, there was no one there. And then, another voice. This time, it called Mayor's name. And he just froze. All the color drained from his face. Because he knew that voice. It was his grandmother's. The very same grandmother who warned him about this beach. The one who had just vanished from a field near her village 8 years ago. And was never, ever seen again. All of a sudden, the air gets thick with this new, absolutely horrifying smell. It was the unmistakable smell of a funeral pyre, burning wood, and something else. And remember, they're standing on a former cremation ground. That smell just triggered this deep, primal fear in both of them.
And then came the sound, a very distinct Hindu funeral chant, Ram Nam Satya Hai. They look up, and in the distance they see a line of figures walking towards them, carrying what looked like burning logs. It was a funeral procession, just emerging out of the pitch-black darkness.
Completely overwhelmed, they just started to run. But then, everything happened at once. You've got the sound of dogs howling out of nowhere, the smell of burning bodies getting stronger, those disembodied voices whispering all around them, and then, as they got to the edge of the water, this massive, shining figure started to rise up out of the sea. At that point, they couldn't even scream. Their bodies, their minds, they just gave up.
So when the sun finally came up over Dumas Beach, the long night of terror was over. But its effects, well, they were just starting to become clear.
Their 3 friends, obviously terrified, had called Mayor's family. A search party, including the local police, went out to scour the beach. And that's where they found them, Mayor and Kushal, lying unconscious right at the water's edge, not too far from those old ruins.
They were carried back to the village, still in their soaked clothes, covered head to toe in that black sand. When they finally came to that afternoon, both of them were burning up with a high fever and were just in a profound state of shock. They were shaking with this terror that seemed like it had settled deep down in their bones, and they could barely even start to explain the impossible things that had happened to them that night.
And that experience, it left a permanent scar. Even years later, that night on the beach isn't just a bad memory for Mayor, it's a nightmare he relives over and over. They say he's still haunted, that he screams in his sleep whenever he smells burning wood, instantly transported right back to that terrifying shore.
Look, the official explanation will probably tell you it was just disorientation, fear playing tricks on the mind. But for the people who live there, for anyone who's heard those whispers on the wind or smelled those phantom fires, the legend is very, very real. Which leaves us all with one chilling question. What is truly sleeping under the black sands of Dumas Beach?